couple, it says they're a newly married couple and want to know if we have any tips for dealing with performance anxiety.
Oh, yes. Ah, I love this question. I think recognizing that we can put a lot of pressure on ourselves to show up to that space of like, okay, I need to be the right thing. Is my spouse enjoying themselves? And, kind of being up on the bed and of kind of observing and critiquing ourselves and our performance. And it just feels like so much is at stake. Like I need to perform so that we can have this amazing, magical experience. And I think really changing the mindset of the goal of that time of sexual connection, of to really that it's about learning, it's about practicing, it's about exploring, it's about playfulness, that there's no, I think culture can really convey sexuality as, it's, I am, just thinking of a time when I first was married and like gave my husband a black eye because I elbowed him, right underneath the eye. It's like, it's kind of awkward and we're like, you're clumsy and it's just not anything like the movies. Like that's not real.
Totally. Yeah, it's totally not smooth and easy like the movies, and it's not always like this high intensity kind of performance driven sort of thing. That like the cultures and movies would suggest.
Yes, where it's just like intense and everyone's so sultry. Like our sexuality should be an extension of our whole personality. That there's laughing and fun and that it's really you and your spouse coming together, exploring your sexuality together. And I think when that expectation can shift, that we're not trying to create this certain type of experience, but we are exploring our sexuality together. This is a part of our life that we're like building this together. We're learning about ourselves. I want to learn about you. And that there's just so much room to not know, to be figuring it out, for it to be awkward, for sometimes it's going to feel really awkward, and that is normal. That is very, very normal. And so I think whenever in your mind you have, oh, it should be like this, and I should be able to perform this way and give my spouse like this experience where we're both climaxing at the exact same time and fireworks go off and, and that just isn't real life. And so that's the advice I would give.
I love it. And I like the shift in mindset, right? From a performance-based mindset of trying to do it for my spouse or do it to my spouse, but instead it's a matter of sharing with my spouse. Right? That it's not a taking from, it's not a doing to or doing for, that it's a sharing with, and that we're building something together and we're learning together and we're having fun together, and there's closeness, there's connection. That is the context for the passion and intensity that can be a part of and is part of sexual experience as well.
Yes. And I think what's on my mind about this is, and Josh, you can speak to this too, but husbands, I feel like our culture conveys, like you were sharing about the young teenager who didn't experience this super high sex drive, but in the locker room, he's feeling this pressure to convey, this kind of hyper masculine sexuality. And I think of, there can be a lot of performance anxiety I've seen in husbands, that it's like, I should want sex all the time and I should be able to perform like in this certain way at this certain level, and it should look like this. And if I don't, then I'm not manly, or I'm not a good lover, or there's a discrepancy again, kind of comparing what culture conveys as healthy masculine sexuality and then what the actual reality is.
Totally. And there's this like total mythology out there, kind of toxic masculinity mythology that's out there. Like men are supposed to intuitively know how to be amazing lovers, right? Like it's just like as a gene or something. and this and that. We just know exactly how to pleasure a woman in a way that will blow her mind and create amazing sexual experiences every time. And if you don't intuitively know how to engage that, there's just something wrong with you, because every other guy totally, was just like born with that gene and kind of knows. And so if you, feel awkward and out of your depth and like you have no idea what you're doing with this creature that's totally different than you, then there's just something wrong with you. And
Yes.
yet,
This creature is totally different than you. And that I have heard an author describe it this way, that a woman's sexuality is like the cycle of the moon. Literally, because it's like different things are going to feel good, and her sexuality and how she experienced pleasure literally changes. So even if you were to, spend your whole life learning your wife, there's some things you're going to be able to learn. And then there's some things that are still going to be mysterious, that God created it where there has to be so much communication.
totally, intentionally, it's part of the design, right? Like men and women are so different in our sexuality, right? When the perfect picture, I think, for like male sexuality is the Staples Easy button, right? You've seen those commercials. There's like the big red button, and you hit it, and it says that was easy, right? That's kind of like in a nutshell, male sexuality. Like it kind of functions the same way every time. It's maybe differing degrees of intensity, but it's pretty reliable and straightforward, and it's just kind of does its thing, right? Female sexuality, on the other hand, more like the cockpit of a 747, man. Yeah, knobs and doodads and dials, and it's just, and it's always changing all the time. What felt good at one time in the same experience will feel not good later, or what worked magic the last experience falls flat this time. Like it's just totally changing, evolving piece. And that really requires communication and relational connection and a learning of your own body and being able to share that and being able to learn each other. And that it's just part of the design that God built into it. And so if a man approaches a woman based on his own experience of sexuality and thinks that if I engage her like I want to be engaged in them, then it is not going to turn out so well. Like we're clueless. We have no idea what it's like to be a woman, and we have no idea what it is that a woman needs in order to have a great sexual experience. And so it really does require a learning of your specific woman, okay? Because every woman is different. And while there's similarities in terms of the variety that women experience, that you learning the relational aspects of what it is to be in a relationship and share a sexual relationship with your woman, man, and learning the nuance and the changes and the ability to connect with where they're at today. I mean, yeah, there's not a gene or a preset knowledge or a Karma Sutra book that you can read that somehow will reveal all of the mysteries and make you a master. That's Hollywood. That's not reality.
Right. It's just complete fantasy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
It's meant to require so much sharing and vulnerability, because it's vulnerable to share. I meet with a lot of couples, and it's kind of like, what does conversation look like during your sexual, connection? And there's
and their eyes kind of go like this, right?
like, oh, we don't talk to each other.
Like talk to each other?
Right. And that then you're really totally flying blind, that, there's no way to read each other's minds. And I think of having an expectation of this should just be an 8, that we should just know. And that just is not ever. I mean, maybe I shouldn't speak in such absolutes, but I can't say absolutely that God intentionally did not create it that way, I believe.